need help with. Hold on, I need help. How I don't know how to pronounce your name.
Yeah, my name is Lucija, and my surname.
Okay, Lucia.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Özgür.
Yes. And you?
Özgür,
nice
to meet you.
Özgür.
So we're here to talk about your beautifully done animation movie, The Stork. I will start with the question that my team members sent me before I go through my own questions. For me, I'll talk a little bit later my commentary about the movie, but like the limitation of human beings and relationships, men and women. But my team asks, like, they say that compared to mainstream animation movies, the Stork is rather difficult to understand. And besides the symbolic associations of the movie, how is the Stork's relationship with being understood? Is there an intention to be understood, or symbolism is fine enough? So.
Well, I think that's the beauty of art, that it's not exactly meant to be science. It's a form that doesn't give answers, but it opens questions. And yes, there is symbolism. There are elements that are, I think, open for interpretation. So even though we as authors have some idea, I think it's good to have a story that maybe every viewer can see differently. And we used to, Morten and me, we are two directors, but he couldn't come to join today. We studied in Estonia, and here there's like a long tradition of surreal art, surreal literature and filmmaking, which has quite deep roots in the history, and because Estonia was in the Soviet Union, and in these times it was very dangerous to make films because there was censorship, and people had to create stories with hidden meanings. And now when you look back, there's a long tradition of making films that are a little bit strange in Estonia, if you're familiar with Estonian animation.
Actually, I'm not. But when you said that this hidden meanings, I remember I watched the interview with Krzysztof Kieślowski, the Polish director. He was also saying during these times of censorship, there was more like, I think he was trying to say subtext and symbolism, and that's how they were trying to get in touch with the audience. So it just reminded me that, but I didn't know about surrealism in Estonia. I'll look into it. Actually, I'm a biologist and the writer who also write poetry. So I'm not technically from the techniques of the cinema department in a way, but maybe because I'm a writer, although I don't like chasing the meanings, they sometimes appear, so many things appear to me because of how my brain works. So I now want to talk a little bit about how what I thought when I watched The Stork. So for me, the first scene, from the first scene, because we see a traffic and people can't move, they're limited, they're just can't move, stuck in the traffic, and there's a stork. It immediately is like the limitations of being a human being, not being able to fly. And then later the man is naked, goes, and it also reminds us that animals are maybe more free, which sometimes I think they're naked and they don't have much the civilization's borders and the moral norms and this and that. So I thought of that in the first is maybe my first watching of it. And so even then, even the sex sometimes, like relationship, but more like when you talk about animals, you just say sex or breeding, whatever. That even made me feel, again, like more freedom in animals. I felt like your movie little bit has a taste that maybe human beings, we are actually limited and we create our limits, like all these doors in your movie. Car doors keep shutting and open, windows, this structure of the building. So I thought of that. But other than that, again, about animals, I thought of how I sometimes, again, as a biologist, when we would read that the male in the animal kingdom usually tries to make more offspring as possible, so breeds with as many females as possible, at least in some species. And the women, because the female, because they will invest a lot of energy in being pregnant and giving birth, they choose the most fit male. So in your movie, when I see only the men naked and going after the storks or the geese, as if they're more following their instinct, maybe a little bit more than the women, I thought of like that. But this is my thought. So what is, I read that you also had another movie called Husband and Wife. So what do you want to tell us about relationships, and is this a theme you go back to? But surely it's not just you, with whoever you're collaborating with, for sure.
Actually, for this film Husband and Wife, I was just an artist. I didn't direct this film, so it was more like a invitation to do the artwork, the design and animation. But coming back to your whole question and your story and interpretation, I found it very interesting, and in fact close to something that was imagined in the frame of this work. I mean, yes, there is this world where the traffic jam and people are stuck in their traffic, and the stork, the man, who knows what kind of problems he had, and one day he just walked on his balcony and decided, no, maybe I should quit this life, change something. And this was kind of a symbolism of, doing something drastic, breaking free from a life that is maybe not working very well. And I mean, there is only one woman character, so there is not too much confusion between, somehow it became kind of maybe strange that there's only men, but because there was this traffic jam, all the men also maybe got inspired from this, maybe they're going to work and they're bored of their traffic jam life.
Yeah, but for me, I think when I looked at the women, I thought there's at least two. I thought the one comes out of the cuckoo, where he goes, this woman's husband goes, and she was inviting him in a way, her socks and everything. I thought that, for me, it was a little bit like the women in this in Stork was a little bit more in control, although there are also this one woman, that the main women we see, seems suppressed, because the first time we see her, it's opening the pot, the typical, the woman cooks, woman cleans, and her heeled shoes are laid down somewhere in the back in the room somewhere, but she's with her slippers, she's always home, so she seems suppressed. But whenever things get out of control, maybe when she, for example, when there's this uncontrolled event in the kitchen, and then she goes with the stork, the man, and there, for example, she finds the rope, she has stuff, and she just, I mean, when the cuckoo is inviting her husband, she instead is letting the man in, giving her a rope, and also her walk, when after finding the rope in the drawers, the way she walks, she also has, again, maybe she is suppressed in some ways, but in control in others. And I thought it's a little bit like women, what I kind of sometimes think of women too. They sometimes, men look down on women, but then when you look in the details of the relationship, you find that the women within the frame of her life sometimes becomes dominant in some way. So it was nice. It was layered. So you see how we are both in these relationships. But I mean, still I thought, because only men run in your movie Naked, and you said there's not movement, but there's 3 women down there. When
yes, there are a couple of women. Yes.
Also opening the window of the door, there were some women. So I mean, I was wondering if you had a say about women particular or not? Like, do you have any, do you, for example, in this movie, the women, when she cheats her husband with the stork, and then she changes a little bit as if she also starts to listen to her inner maybe core. This is what I am thinking. And then, for example, she serves herself the soup and not the woman, not the man. And that's the first time we see he reaching for her, because sometimes we take people for granted, but only when we lose them, we understand their value. So there was there was like as if there was something about women, but as I said, I also don't like so much asking, why did you do this or whatever, but is there anything about women that you...
No, I think you got right many things. And I mean, I live in Estonia, I'm from Croatia, so it was more like a critical portrait of many lives in Eastern Europe, where there's a lot of tradition, and you know, woman really was a housewife. And she probably knew that her husband is cheating for a long time. And the stork was this inspiration, or the moment when she realized that also she needs to change something or even leave. So it's true. I think it's all these small nuances you noticed. Actually, I agreed. You know, the point where he also felt that he's losing her, so he also wanted to serve the soup.
Yes, yeah, but I also, maybe my team is right, I got it after watching a couple of times. In the beginning you watch, sometimes look at more the animations and some things, but when I watched it more times, I saw a pattern of some things about relationships. So was there generally something your team or you wanted to say about relationships, men and women?
Well, something was there.
Okay, but you also said a little bit the tradition. Yes, I'm sorry. You already explained.
Yes, the point that many times couples live for a long and they are not happy, and it's not fair. Maybe the man has more freedom and the woman keeps quiet.
Yes, yes. I mean the slippers and everything. Yes, it's really it's there. For me, the movie's most striking scene was when this man on the nest calls like a bird call, and it was striking in two reasons. One, as I said, only men is going naked and running after and flying after this call, but there was something hopeful, I thought, because the atmosphere in the movie where they live, it looks a little monotonous and boring and not really a nice place. The colors and everything you made. So there was some hope that they could hear this and react to this. So is there anything is there any symbolism of like what it could symbolize for our society, like to hear and to react?
The point that we live, as you mentioned in the beginning of this conversation, that we as humans, we live in these boxes with the doors and sometimes far from nature and maybe not even listening to ourselves like deep inside. Yes. And there's maybe something like a call of nature or something, some sign that maybe we need to listen to our desires from inside, maybe to be more free.
Yeah, because there is, for example, when I think of the end, even my mom said, oh, it's not a happy end, like she doesn't finally get this other man or whatever, but there's a little bit hope again, because she crushes the clock, this clock that keeps appearing in their life, in a way maybe good, that it reminds them some things, but also it keeps the circle going. So the clock, he drops the clock, she steps on it, she starts running, the first ever woman in the movie starts running, and then breathing heavily. So there is hope, but still there's both hope and the end is not so happy. Do you I just read that you also do illustrations for political magazines and stuff. Do you think there are more dark stories in our life? And then second question is, you also, I read you doing illustrations for kids books. So how do you balance the darkness of the life when you're probably doing kids' books? Probably there's all this light you also take out wherever you see. So what is the relationship with maybe the dark politics or dark life realities in our life, and how do you balance it?
First, I want to say that, to be honest, in my mind, I think the woman also flew in the end. We don't see it. It's kind of, it's a not clear ending, but there is hope, as you say, and she could be this first woman who flew, and that's why I like to keep the ending open, so you could interpret it or have a question mark in your mind. And but I really hope that she also flew. That was the main idea. And about, yes, political illustrations and for children, well, these things are different worlds. You know, when I do illustrations for politics, I also try to find humor, because this is the way to survive the darker topics. You know, because we will die if we don't have sense of humor to just face this world. And about children's books, of course, this is a more light field of work. I just try to put more something of the sentimental and soft and warm parts of our childhood, something like that.
Okay, yeah. So this is the second question from the team that came to me. They say this animation looks, the modeling and the characters animation looks unique, but also in a way not unfamiliar. So where can we find inspirations for these the animation? How do you call it, the characters, the animation characters? Yeah,
To be honest, I think you could recognize Estonian animation. This is where I studied, and this is where I live, and this is where I was learning how to animate. And I think the style could be called Estonian.
Yeah, all right then. It's at least then from now on I remember when I say Estonia, I'll remember the surrealism and this animation, so I'll look at some things better. So I have a question. When you think of storks, we always also think of the babies. They bring babies, and in the movie there's no babies, there's no kids. I mean, it's nearly like, as I said, in the animal kingdom there's more breeding, to breed for offspring. In humans, sometimes kids still a little bit the same, but sometimes a little bit more civilized way of we think of kids. But generally, why stork? Was there something that we didn't catch? Maybe?
To be honest, it was more because there are a lot of storks in Estonia, and you can see it sometimes just standing somewhere on the roof. So there was this idea, or in a nest. And there was this idea, maybe what would happen if a human being would stand like that? And yes, I'm aware of this symbolism of children. There was not too much thought about that, but sometimes when you work on a story, you come to an idea later. And then I was thinking later, maybe there was no children in this relationship also. So maybe they were not happy because of this. Who knows? But it was not a direct idea to relate to this symbolism of a stork as a baby bringer.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I just thought of it doesn't have to be anything with the babies for sure when it's storks, but when I just thought of stork, I thought of that there's no kids. In the beginning I didn't even think about kids, so storks made me think of kids. But
it's a really strong image, like we all see this image of a stork with a child. It's true, but it could be any other bird. It could be a crow or a sparrow, but stork is really big, so somehow it's maybe easier to relate to a human being.
Yeah, and they make their nests near the houses, sometimes on top of the houses. So it's nearly, your work is a fruit of this closeness of storks living with the, so because as I said, I study biology and I did a lot of bird work. Actually, I'm not doing so actively right now, but your movie could be shown in some stork researchers would be interested to see it. I don't know what they would think.
I would like to hear discussion.
Yeah, that would be interesting. When later, when you make it available on Vimeo, I must send it to some of my colleagues, and maybe then I can, ask what they think of that.
If you want, I can send you a link. You can ask. I can send you a link. Okay, but right now, it's not available because it's going to festivals.
Yes.
But if ask me
later, yeah, we can maybe do that. I have something I had these 2 extra questions. I just don't want to tire you, but I was thinking of this. I think when I was watching it a couple more times, the cigarettes a little bit affected me, because it starts with a cigarette and then the cigarette is not finished and he flies to become a stork. I don't smoke, but sometimes when I see people who smoke, they usually smoke to make things easier in their life. There's some things wrong in the life, but smoking helps them cope a little bit. So this bow down thing. So I really thought maybe this the cigarette is really so strongly used. I mean, I don't know if any other symbolism is there. I'm just curious, because for me it was like these people are really in this life that they don't really so much like, but they can't so much say enough, but they're trying to cope with it. And I thought like as if the cigarette was one of the coping mechanism, but I don't know if there's anything that is very funny or something.
Yes, it's a good point. It's a good point. Yes, in the beginning, the stork, he just before his breakdown, he finishes the cigarette. So usually people smoke when they're not having a good moment or good time in their life.
Yeah, so it emphasizes the atmosphere of the, okay. And I think other than that, I was just a little bit thinking that the doors, and as I said, the doors and everything, the framing, like human life is not that free. It really made me feel like that. But when the woman made a big change by cheating this, maybe this is the first time everything starts changing after she cheats with the stork man. And so the doorbell, when her husband comes, so disturbing, really one of the most disturbing sound in the whole thing. So I mean, I don't know, do you think the doors sometimes means that our private life, but in this movie we don't see any interaction between people? They are maybe two people in the car, maybe they're not from same family, but we don't see. So other than that, we don't have any interaction. We don't see any interaction between them. So then the doors, when I think of all these things, do you think there's communication problems in the society? What do you think about this as an artist? Because artists, sometimes we try to make people aware of something, or we try to say, so as an artist, do you think there is a communication problem in the...
Yes, we close ourselves in our boxes. This was the idea in the film as well, yes. I'm sure they had communication problems, this character. But also there's this thing that you remember the moment when the neighbors are looking?
Yes.
There is also that you're trying to hide something and others are looking at you, and there is something, this idea of separation or
maybe that was also a hopeful moment. They're curious. Curiosity is a good thing. At least if people are curious, there might be maybe next time they'll ask, how are you? I mean, maybe It's a good thing if we are curious. So, and as you said, the movies are mostly not so much for just the certain meanings, but to ask questions. So curiosity is, if you're not curious, we wouldn't even maybe understand the questions or react to the questions. So as I said, although it's dark, although the characters, the atmosphere, this moment where he becomes like nearly Stork and calls, the screams and calls, and people react and fly. I think there's the hope, and I really like that there's this hope moment of this movie. And thanks to all of your team members who made this beautiful movie, and thanks for sending it to us so we could make it reach more people in Turkey and also in the world, because it was online festival. So thanks a lot, and thanks for this nice talk. Thanks for giving us time.
Thank you for inviting. I have never been to Turkey with my film. I hope I can go one day in reality.
Yeah. Yes, maybe in future in future, maybe, hopefully, with your next movies, maybe when this corona leaves us, when we make a festival more face to face again, hopefully we'll meet then and talk about your next movies. And I will be more informed about Estonia already.
That's okay.
That's you told me.
Yes, if possible, we keep in touch. I would like to come, maybe to make some workshop or masterclass.
Oh, that would be great, really. Thanks. You already say it yourself is good, because it's great, because we always want collaborations like that, and we believe in the richness of international communities. So, okay, I'll pass this to my team. They're already going to watch and be happy. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Have a nice day. Yeah,
you too.
Likewise. Bye. Bye.
Teşekkürler.
Bye. I don't know how to say thank you in Estonian.
Aita.
Alta. Alta Lucia. Alta Lucia.
Lucia. Yes.
Alta Lucia. Bye.
Ciao. Bye.
Bye.